Welcome back to the KidMin Word. Happy Tuesday. I hope that your Monday went better than some Mondays that we've all lived if you have been in ministry for very long. And you know what those Mondays are like. You get the call that a volunteer is switching ministries and they're going to start serving somewhere else. You find out about a parent who was upset over the weekend or whatever. If your Monday was smooth, wonderful. I'm so glad. But if it wasn't, you're in good company. And I think that today's passage is going to feel oddly familiar. So we're going to jump back into Acts chapter number 5. Yesterday, we left the apostles, verses 17 through 20. They were in jail. They had been jailed. They are released by an angel who sends them right back to the temple court where they had just been arrested, and they start teaching again like nothing had ever happened. But meanwhile, back at the prison, nobody had gotten the memo about what happened. And verse 22 tells us that the officers went to the jail to bring the apostles in, and they simply weren't there. So they came back and reported it. They said, hey, the jail was securely locked. We had guards at the doors, right? But when they opened it up, nobody was inside. And I don't want you to miss this. I want to read exactly how Luke describes their reaction right out of Acts 5, verse 24. Now, when the captain of the temple and the chief priests heard these words, they were greatly perplexed about them, wondering what this would come to. Can you imagine being the guard that makes this report, right? The guard that checks the locks. You stood watch all night, and somehow the very thing that you were assigned to secure is just empty. The temple guard and the chief priests were baffled. They're wondering what in the world has happened. And then someone comes running in with the real update. Pretty much says that the men that you locked up, they're standing in the temple teaching people right now. At which point the captain and the officers go to bring them in. But verse 26 tells us that they did it very carefully because, verse 26 says, they were afraid of being stoned by the people. They were afraid of the people. Here's how the Bible says it exactly. Then the captain with the officers went and brought them, but not by force, because they were afraid of being stoned by the people. Now, stop and notice that detail with me. The men in charge, the ones with the authority, the guards, the officials, they were the ones that were afraid. The apostles aren't afraid. The guys in charge are afraid. I think sometimes we assume that being in ministry means that we're supposed to have it all figured out, calm and unshaken, no matter what's happening around us, while everyone watching us are the people who are nervous or unsure. But this message flips that. The apostles had just been arrested, thrown in prison, and were about to be hauled in front of the ruling council again. And they weren't the anxious ones. They weren't the scared ones in this story. The powerful people, the ones who were supposed to have control over the whole situation, they were the ones scrambling. They were the ones that were afraid. So here's what I want you to carry into your day today. You don't have to have every answer. You don't have to have every program running perfectly or every parent happy with you to walk with a settled, kind of confidence. Confusion and control are not the same thing. And sometimes the people who look like they have the most control are actually the most confused and the most rattled. So if you're feeling behind a little bit this week, maybe you're behind on lesson prep, maybe you're behind on follow-up texts, or maybe you feel like you're behind literally on everything, that doesn't mean that you've lost your footing. It might just mean the empty prison cell is doing exactly what God intended. Something is happening that the systems around you can't fully explain or contain. And that's not a problem for you to fix. In fact, it's actually a pretty good sign. I think about the leaders I talk to who feel like they need to project total command of every situation, right? The perfect check-in system, the flawless lessons and transitions, the volunteer schedule that never has a gap. And listen, order and planning matter. Don't get me wrong. But your peace was never supposed to come from having everything and every single variable under control. Your peace comes from knowing whose plan, let me point up, you're actually a part of. The guards in this story had the locks. They had the keys. They had the official orders. And none of it gave them peace because their confidence was built on control. The apostles had none of that. And they were the calmest people in the whole story because their confidence was built on obedience. And that's worth sitting with today, especially if this week already has you feeling a step behind. Now, tomorrow, the apostles get brought before the council again. And this time they say something that's going to require every ounce of courage that they have. I'll see you then.